When Lewis Hamilton walked away from his scarlet Ferrari in Budapest, his shoulders heavy and his words sharper than the curbs of the Hungaroring, the Formula One world felt the full weight of a dream cracking under pressure. His teammate Charles Leclerc had just planted the same SF25 on pole position, a statement lap that electrified Ferrari's tifosi, while Hamilton, the seven-time world champion, the man brought in to revive Ferrari's glory, slumped to 12th on the grid and called himself useless. That single word, repeated to cameras and microphones, cut through the paddock like a cold blade. For Vasseur, a man who once guided Hamilton to his GP2 title almost 2 decades ago, the irony is striking. He knows Hamilton's fire better than anyone, but now finds himself having to calm the very driver he once unleashed. Sometimes he exaggerates, Vasseur told German media, stressing that the gap between Hamilton and Leclerc in qualifying was just a tenth of a second, not the chasm Hamilton painted to the press. But in Formula One, a tenth can be the difference between Q2 elimination and fighting for pole. It's that knife-edge reality that fuels Hamilton's frustration. And yet, Vasseur argues, his public extremes risk destabilizing a Ferrari team already battered by media speculation and relentless scrutiny. Here lies the paradox. Is Hamilton amplifying problems that are relatively minor, a half-tenth here, an imperfect brake feel there? Or is he exposing deeper structural flaws that Ferrari still refuses to confront? These aren't just surface-level frustrations. They cut to the heart of Ferrari's 2025 campaign, where a single misstep can spiral into a full-blown crisis. And as Hamilton's words echo across the paddock, the question is no longer whether he exaggerates. It's whether Ferrari can afford to ignore what those exaggerations reveal. When Hamilton stunned the world by leaving Mercedes for Ferrari, it was billed as the ultimate redemption arc. A driver who had conquered every corner of Formula One, chasing one final, almost mythical challenge, bringing glory back to Maranello. The narrative practically wrote itself. Here was the man who had broken Schumacher's records, joining the team Schumacher once defined. But reality has been far harsher. 14 races in, Hamilton still has not stepped onto the podium. Not once. His points tally looks painfully ordinary for a driver of his stature. And worse, every weekend seems to remind the world that Ferrari's dream signing is struggling to even match, let alone surpass, Charles Leclerc. Leclerc's consistency has only sharpened the contrast. In Hungary, when he produced a pole lap that looked like pure poetry, Hamilton was left scraping for answers, buried deep in the midfield. For a driver who built his reputation on qualifying brilliance, this was not just a defeat, it was humiliation. And the deeper frustration lies in the fact that Ferrari's car is not fundamentally slow. On the right weekend, Leclerc has shown it can fight for pole, even challenge for wins. That puts Hamilton's struggle under an unforgiving spotlight. If the car is capable, why can't he extract the same magic? To understand Hamilton's struggles at Ferrari, you have to start with the brakes, quite literally. For years at Mercedes, Hamilton built his style around a car that gave him absolute trust in the braking phase. His ability to brake later and rotate the car smoothly into corners was a trademark of his dominance. But at Ferrari, in 2025, that foundation has cracked. Reports from Italy suggest the Scuderia's engine braking system is proving a serious complication for Hamilton's adaptation. Combined with updated Brembo braking materials introduced mid-season, the system feels alien compared to the Mercedes he mastered. That mismatch came to light most dramatically at Spa, when Hamilton spun in unusual fashion and pointed to a new component being fitted on his car for the first time. Fred Vasseur insists the issue is minor, quantifying it as maybe half a tenth of lap time. But in Formula One, half a tenth is enormous. On paper, it looks trivial. Blink and you'd miss it. Yet in qualifying trim, that half-tenth can be the difference between scraping into Q3 and sitting comfortably on the second row. At the Hungaroring, Hamilton was just a tenth behind Leclerc in Q2, but that tenth pushed him out, while Leclerc went on to claim pole. To an outsider, it looks like a gulf in performance. To Hamilton, it feels like fighting with a car that won't obey his instincts. At the heart of this Ferrari-Hamilton puzzle lies not just the car, but the way feedback travels through the team. Hamilton has always been a driver who speaks in absolutes. Either the car feels perfect or it feels impossible. At Mercedes, this intensity was filtered through a structure designed to absorb it. Engineers like Pete Bonington understood that Hamilton's extreme comments were rarely meant to be literal. They were emotional signals, pointing toward areas that demanded immediate attention. Mercedes had the stability and calm culture to translate Hamilton's passion into performance. But Ferrari operates differently. In Maranello, every comment becomes amplified. Every frustration quickly spirals into headlines. Vasseur's remark that Hamilton exaggerates the problems he sees is telling, because in F1, exaggeration can serve two purposes. On one hand, it creates urgency. An engineer hearing a driver insist the brakes are undrivable will prioritize the issue immediately. On the other hand, it risks misallocating resources, sending the team chasing ghosts instead of refining fundamentals. Ferrari's tendency to react emotionally only compounds this. When Hamilton pushes too hard in the press, the garage feels the ripple effects. In that sense, Hamilton's strategy backfires. By demanding more, he sometimes destabilizes the very process needed to deliver it. And yet, there's another perspective. Without Hamilton's outbursts, would Ferrari even recognize the urgency of its braking problem? Hamilton's communication style may be imperfect, even damaging at times, but it comes from the same place as his success, an obsession with extracting performance, no matter the cost. The strategic challenge for Ferrari is not to silence him, it's to harness him. If the technical battles explain Hamilton's struggles on track, it's the human element that makes this story so combustible. No one expected Hamilton's Ferrari dream to be easy, but few imagined just how raw his frustration would appear in public. In Budapest, the word useless wasn't aimed at the car or the team, it was directed at himself. That kind of brutal self-assessment is unusual in Formula One, a sport where drivers often mask weakness behind defiance. Contrast that with Charles Leclerc. The Monegasque is no stranger to Ferrari disappointment, yet his demeanour rarely spills into self-destruction. Where Hamilton talks in extremes, Leclerc embodies a quiet resilience, absorbing chaos without broadcasting it. That difference in temperament is now magnified under the same roof. To the tifosi, Leclerc is the calm constant, Hamilton the volatile newcomer. For Vasseur, this is the delicate balance he must manage, how to protect Hamilton's confidence without letting his mood swings unsettle the entire operation. The tension deepens with Ferrari's culture itself. In Italy, passion isn't just part of the sport, it is the sport. When Hamilton lashes out, even if only for the cameras, it fuels a narrative of collapse. When Leclerc smiles through the storms, it reinforces his role as Ferrari's steady hand. Vasseur, who insists Hamilton's extremes are no big deal, may be correct inside the briefing room. But outside, the damage is done. The world sees a fractured team. Strip away the emotion, the headlines, and the culture clash, and Formula One always comes back to numbers. And for Ferrari in 2025, the math tells a sobering story. 14 races into the season, Hamilton has failed to deliver a single podium. That's not just an anomaly for a 7-time world champion. It's a devastating blow to Ferrari's constructors' campaign. Every 10th lost under braking, every Q2 exit, every midfield finish compounds into a points deficit that no amount of hype can disguise. Consider this. A podium finish brings between 15 and 18 points. Hamilton, had he converted even half of his midfield races into podiums, could have added upwards of 70 points to Ferrari's total. That's the difference between comfortably holding second in the constructors' standings and fighting to defend against Mercedes and McLaren. In a season where Red Bull still lead, but look less untouchable than in years past, those lost points aren't just frustrating, they're potentially championship-defining. If Ferrari's internal drama wasn't challenging enough, the Paddock's response has only sharpened the spotlight. Mercedes, Hamilton's old home, have been especially attentive. Each time Hamilton struggles, it reinforces the narrative that Mercedes timed the transition perfectly. McLaren, meanwhile, see Ferrari's turbulence as an opening. With Lando Norris mounting serious podium challenges, the team senses Ferrari slipping in the constructors' fight. Every time Hamilton fails to deliver, McLaren edge closer to displacing Ferrari as Red Bull's most consistent challenger. Even Red Bull pay attention. They know Leclerc's one-lap speed can still disrupt Verstappen's rhythm, but Hamilton's lack of consistency has reduced Ferrari's ability to play the two-car strategic game. Then there are the whispers, rumours linking Ferrari with Christian Horner, speculation about management changes. Such turbulence only strengthens the view among rivals that Ferrari remain their own worst enemy. For Hamilton, that perception is dangerous. The more other teams sense weakness, the more Ferrari become a target. The question looming over Maranello now is simple. What happens if Hamilton never adapts? Ferrari didn't sign him to fight for 12th place, they signed him to restore the legend. If the struggles continue, the team may be forced into a quiet recalibration, leaning harder into Leclerc as the proven performer while giving Hamilton time to adapt. That shift could happen subtly at first, strategy calls favouring Leclerc, development paths tuned to his feedback. But in Formula One, such changes rarely stay hidden for long. Beyond 2025, the stakes rise even higher. The new regulations in 2026 promise to reshape the grid. For Ferrari, having Hamilton fully integrated by then is critical. His experience could be invaluable in steering the car's development, but that requires trust on both sides. If either side loses that faith, the partnership risks becoming a short-lived experiment rather than a long-term legacy. And then there is Hamilton's reputation itself. Every season that passes without results chips away at his aura of inevitability. The danger isn't just that Ferrari fail with Hamilton. It's that history remembers the move as a miscalculation, a final chapter that tarnished the legend rather than elevating it. For a driver who built his career on proving doubters wrong, that is a psychological burden as heavy as any braking issue. Lewis Hamilton's first season in red was never supposed to look like this. The move was framed as destiny, the seven-time world champion reviving Ferrari's sleeping giant. Instead, it has become a case study in how quickly expectations can unravel when passion, pressure, and precision fall out of sync. Budapest was the turning point. Hamilton, one of the most successful qualifiers in Formula One history, left stranded in 12th while Leclerc took pole. His self-criticism was more than just raw emotion. It was the sound of a driver wrestling with his own identity in a team still struggling to understand how to handle him. Fred Vasseur's comments reveal the paradox. He insists Hamilton sometimes exaggerates problems, that a braking issue costing half a tenth is not catastrophic. Yet in the margins of Formula One, those tiny gaps are everything. Hamilton sees disaster where others see detail because he has lived through the razor-thin world of title fights. At Mercedes, that intensity was an engine of progress. At Ferrari, it risks being perceived as destabilizing drama. But here's the critical truth. Ferrari need Hamilton as much as Hamilton needs Ferrari. His demands, however extreme, stem from the same instinct that made him a champion. The challenge for Vasseur is not to calm him into silence, but to channel that fire into constructive development. Leclerc may be the steadier hand, but without Hamilton fully engaged, Ferrari risk entering 2026 with half their potential left untapped. The road ahead is brutal. Rivals like McLaren and Mercedes are circling. Red Bull remain opportunistic, and the constructors' standings offer no forgiveness for missed podiums. Every race becomes a test. Can Hamilton and Ferrari align enough to transform exaggeration into evolution, frustration into fight back? Or will this season go down as the year Ferrari gambled on a legend and got only headlines in return? For fans, the intrigue is undeniable. Each session now feels like more than just a battle for lap time. It is a psychological duel between a driver chasing immortality and a team trying to rediscover its soul. The story of Hamilton at Ferrari is still being written. The only certainty is that the next chapters will decide not just this season, but how both Hamilton and Ferrari are remembered when the dust finally settles.